Yeah, get your protein shake there, little man. Get up to 220. Keep on working on it. All right, we're here for another podcast. Go With Your Palate. I'm Joe Wagner, and we got my counterpart, Chris Fat Mario Rubio here. He's working on every bit of that 220, drinking his protein shake, doing his calisthenics or whatever the hell you do.
That is...
All right.
That was 20 grams of pea protein.
What, you drink pea?
What?
Dude, I don't know. You're the one that said it.
I don't know. That's what they're saying is good, dude.
I don't know.
Look, can we go?
I thought it was like nitrogen and sodium in pea. I don't know. I've honestly never tasted it. Not, you know,
Plant protein.
If I was in a desert, like if, you know, when that dude got like trapped in the desert.
When that dude got trapped in the
from
desert,
that movie, it was like 106 hours or something.
You're using such general shit right now from that movie. The guy that got trapped in the desert.
My question
is Mad Max?
No, like 106 hours or something. The question is,
wait, where he cuts off his own hand with the
yeah, but he also drinks his piss. Would you drink your piss if you had to?
Well, that was James Franco.
Yes, that was James Franco. Would you drink your piss? Do you need some support on this? Because I'm going to say, hell yeah. If it's life and death,
yeah, dude.
I'm gonna do it. Okay.
Yeah, I would drink my own piss.
You had to think about it, though. I mean, like, what is life worth to you?
I didn't. I took a sip. I got thirsty.
God damn, Chris. Get your priorities. Get your priorities.
Like, I thought that would give it away for you. But, like, whatever.
So is yellow one of your favorite colors? Yeah.
I mean, no.
No?
Well, I don't want to say it like that. I mean, it's seasonal. I mean, fashion, bro. Yeah, yellow's got its place for sure. But I like that you're all like, oh, hung up on that he drank his own piss. But really, dude, he cut his arm off with like a, excuse me, like
a Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife or something like that. Could you do that, bro?
If I had to. I mean, that's got to be, that's rough.
Okay.
I don't like blood either.
Well, this is a great fucking intro.
Yeah, we're starting off strong. And you know what makes me thirsty? No, I'm kidding. All right, so we
talking about thinking outside the box, cutting off your own arm if you need to.
So we were talking about winemaking, right? And so people want to know, like from our social media channels, TikTok and Instagram, they want to know how to make wine, right? So we did this little clip that I want to play with the audio.
Yeah.
That's how to make wine in 60 seconds.
How to make
red wine in 60 seconds. You guys go ahead and play.
60 seconds or less. First, you got your grapes. This is a cluster, if you couldn't tell. Now we're going to crush these grapes, and they're going to go into a vessel, a tank. That's going to be filled up most of the way. So this is all homogeneous. It's what we call must. This is the skins, the pulp, the juice, and the seeds.
As simple as I can make it.
Once we introduce yeast, let's give that a Y right there. Then that yeast converts the sugars to alcohol, and the byproduct is CO2, carbon dioxide. That's going to create bubbles. Those bubbles are going to take the solids, the skin, the pulp, and the seed, up to the top of this tank. So now you have this mass of all the solids being pulled up by the carbon dioxide while the sugars are being converted to alcohol. So we need to take the juice from down below and distribute it over the top so it goes down through this cap and gets all the extraction of color and character. That's how red wine's made.
Dude, 60 seconds, bro.
That was a very simplified form, but we got a lot of questions, so I'm going to redo this, and we're going to get the Skycam in here in a minute to get some of my scribble scrabble here.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to do my best to explain it because it's also how do you make white wine versus red wine, and rosé is fundamentally the same as making white wine. So the difference is, by and large, that with white wine, you're doing a similar fermentation, but you don't have the skins or any of the solids as part of it. You'll have some of the lees and those smaller particles, but you're going to press that juice. The only reason that rosé has a pink hue is because of that small amount of skin contact with a red grape while you're pressing. So you get a little bit of pink depending on how long you let it sit on those skins. It could be a darker pink or a more pale pink. So I'm going to start off with white wine making, okay? So white wine making, and I'll go with like the high-end white wine making. So what you're going to do, you whole cluster pick, right? So bring that into the winery, do whatever sorting you want. It goes straight to the press. Mm-hmm. The press, a couple different presses, but what we typically use is like an air-driven, like a pneumatic bladder press. So there is a bladder inside of the press. It's a cylinder, and it pushes out all of those, pushes out towards the outer edge of this steel cylinder and compresses those grapes to pop the berries, and then the juice seeps into these channels, and those channels consolidate down at the bottom, and then you have your juice. We typically do like a cold settle after that, so we want to drop the majority of those heavy solids out, and then we'll drop that. Let's say Chardonnay. Then we'll take that Chardonnay, now juice, and we'll put it into barrels. Mostly new is what the goal is here. Goes in a barrel. We inoculate. Sometimes we actually do use native yeast in most of our Chardonnays. Reason for using native yeast in most of our Chardonnay is that our alcohol levels, our sugar levels, meaning our potential alcohol levels, are relatively low. So I don't have like an issue with it. I feel like we have enough confidence knowing that it's going to go all the way through fermentation, because if you don't ferment all your sugars during fermentation, you can end up with bacterial issues and off characters. So you want to make sure you can finish fermentation. So you're doing barrel fermented Chardonnay now, right? You leave quite a bit of extra space, because when that CO2 starts to form in that conversion, where your yeast are converting your sugars to alcohol and CO2, it's going to expand that liquid, and sometimes it'll foam over, which oftentimes, especially with native yeast fermentations, you get a lot of foam, which could be a bit of a mess in the cellar, but I think you get some really great characters out of barrel fermented Chardonnay, especially with native yeast. So once that primary fermentation is done, meaning all of the sugars have been converted over to alcohol, then you, in our case, you want to go through secondary fermentation, which is ML fermentation. Malolactic. You're converting malic acid over to lactic acid. It's like a softening of the acid. So it's a bacteria that is consuming the malic acid, which consider that like more of like a citric, sharp type acid, and you're converting that over to a lactic, as the name suggests, like milk, like lactose type acid. So it's a very soft acid. That's where you get some of those buttery characters, those creamy notes, a really broad mouthfeel. So that may take a period of, call it 2 to 3 months. And all this time it's sitting on lees. And then you don't do your first racking, meaning pulling that wine out until you're done with ML fermentation. Clean out the lees, go back in a barrel. At that point, you can choose to sulfur to protect the wine from oxidation, since you no longer have CO2 covering that wine from oxidation. And then you resume your regular barrel aging regime. It could be 9 months, could be 18 months, depending on what your objective is, right? Then after that, you rack it out, you blend it. You're probably racking during that period of aging, and then bottle it. So that's still simplified. But now I'm going to go into red in a little more detail than this. So you've got your grapes, right? And you crush those. Well, what we do is destem.
Crush it.
Well, a lot of people crush them to break the skins open so you have more juice.
Yeah.
But I really prefer to have like as full of a berry intact as possible. Then you're going to destem it, right? So destem into a vessel. In this case, it's a stainless steel tank. It's a cylinder. And you want to leave some headspace, because, again, once you add yeast, you're going to have CO2 created, and that's going to expand that volume of liquid, so you don't want it to overflow. Then,
question about the destemmer, though. Like, is there times where you actually leave stems on, or?
We don't. I've never because I don't feel like the maturity of this stem itself is equal to the maturity of the grape. Yeah. So you're going to have variability, inconsistencies, that sort of thing. So we destem everything. After destemming, when it goes into tank, we actually use cooling methods like dry ice to bring it down to a near freezing temperature. But our goal is, this is what we call cryo extraction. This is a little more of a proprietary thing. We're using freezing elements to expand the cells in the skins to eventually burst them open, so that we have more access to the compounds that are in the skins. Because if you think of red wine, you're getting all of your color, all of your mouthfeel components, a lot of your flavor and aromatics from the skins themselves. And that's why we do our pump overs and punch downs. So we've got this homogeneous mix now, right? We call it must. It's the skin, the pulp, the seed, and the juice. And that's all just one mix. While we're doing our cold soak, we'll generally turn that over like twice a day, make sure everything stays fresh and homogeneous and all that. Then when we determine it's time to start our fermentation, with reds and whites for that matter, we like cold fermentations because it helps out with mouthfeel. So in reds, we typically use a yeast that we've selected that can handle really low temperatures and high alcohol, because oftentimes our reds can be pretty high in alcohol. You're talking like 15 to 16%, and you have a risk of a fermentation sticking. So you want something that's more robust than what I do, say we do with our whites. All right, so we inoculate with our yeast. That goes in. We let that sit for like I'd say 12 to 24 hours until we put that right in the middle of the tank, and we let that sit until we feel that inoculation, that yeast, has kind of acclimated to its environment, and now it's ready for its first turn. All you got to do is smell the tank. You smell some good CO2 coming off there, has kind of that yeast spread out, and then you do your first pump over. From that point on, you're in fermentation mode. We keep the temperatures low so that the yeast don't burn through sugar too fast. So we're looking for, Pinot Noir, 2 to 3 weeks of active fermentation. Cabernet, Petit Syrah, bigger varieties, we're looking for 4 weeks, maybe even more of active fermentation.
Yeah, and so that yeast is going in there to eat up the sugars.
So it's
poop out ethanol, right?
Poop out ethanol,
is that
exactly.
Like
it's so you got, and so while it's doing that, you're creating, not just converting the sugar to alcohol, but you're also creating CO2. And so what happens in a red fermenter with all those solids is like the seed, the pulp, and the skin. The CO2 brings all those up to the top, and it creates this like cake. And I'd say it's maybe 20%, maybe 15 to 20% of the volume, and that's now sitting up at the very top of the tank, and all your juice is fermenting down below. But you want to get all the character from those skins, so you got to incorporate it. You can either punch it down, or you pump it over, where you're going to be bringing the juice from the bottom. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this, but to simplify it, we like to aerate the juice as it's fermenting, as we're pulling it out of the bottom, through something called a pump over pan or a screen, and taking out any solids that might come out, and then we incorporate or distribute it over the cap. And I think the best way to describe this is like a percolating coffee maker, right? So you got your filter, right, and you put your ground beans in there, and then you fill your reservoir of water, you turn it on, and then it's just taking that hot water and dripping it through all the solids, right? And it's picking up all the color, all the character of the coffee, and putting it down into a carafe ready to drink, right? So same thing. You want this fermenting juice to just percolate through this thick cap of solids, and all the while it's doing that, it is just extracting bit by bit all of those characters that are in the skin. So once that process is complete, we'll generally do like an extended maceration, which especially on big varietals, meaning there's no more sugar to ferment, but we still have CO2 in there, and the tannins haven't softened enough. And so we won't be aggressive on our punch downs or pump overs. We'll just say, like, we're going to let this chill and slowly soften out the wine, and then we'll eventually drain the tank. And that means anything, what we call free run, anything that comes out without any force, that's like your cream of the crop. And that's going to probably, volume-wise, be 80% of what you had in that tank. Once you get to the solids, now this cap is dropped to the bottom of the tank because you pulled out all the liquid, and you take you have to shovel that out, and then you put that in a press, and then you press the rest of it out. And generally, pressed wine is pretty low tier, so that generally goes on the bulk market. But the free run is your good stuff. And
the free run is the cream of the crop.
That's it, and it's got like all the character. If you did a good job of winemaking, your press wine is light in color and very astringent, and you've captured all the character of those grapes in your free run. Yeah. So your free run goes to settle for about 2 days as well, just like we do with whites. And you want to get a lot of those heavy solids out, and go to barrel aging, then ML fermentation, similar to whites, stirring occasionally so that we keep those lees in suspension to build mouthfeel. And then once that's done, with reds, we actually do a really slow process of using sulfur, where typically you would hit sulfur pretty heavy after ML fermentation, but we rely on the residual CO2 to blanket that from oxidizing. And then we'll slowly add, and not move the wine a lot at that time, slowly add sulfur until we get to a level that'll cover it from oxidation. And once we're at that level, then we'll go ahead and rack off lees and clean the barrel out, and then go back into aging for whatever that period of time is. So up to 2 years for reds. And so that's kind of the process. It's quite simple when you see it in a diagram, but it's even better. And I always like
this artwork is you got some talents, bro.
Little twig and berries there, yeah.
But yeah, this is great. I think it was great about seeing that video too. Like, we'll always put you on the spot, but like just really just breaking it down. Like, in that video, you did it in 60 seconds.
Yeah, so it had to be simplified, but that's also like the platform. TikTok drives like very low attention spans.
Yeah. What?
But that's why we're doing the podcast, because like we can actually get into the details Where on like another platform like that, people are like looking for kind of quick info and something entertaining.
Yeah.
If you really want to learn about it, you got to come to the podcast and learn more of the depth of like the winemaking practice. So that's it. And hopefully all of our listeners out there are going to like chime in and be like, I want to learn more about this in like long form. So when you're on, your boring ass commute from, your house to whatever traffic you're going through in LA to get to your job, you can listen to How to Make Wine. And then I'd encourage you to go out and buy a winemaking kit and learn how to make wine yourself because it's pretty fun.
I mean, you just laid it down. And especially with like the artwork and the pictures, I mean, people should now be able to just go out and make their own home batch.
This was winemaking 101, almost a master's course, but like simplified.
Wait, what was it again? What was the law for personal use or something?
Well, I think it's still carried over after Prohibition, but it's like 250 gallons per person per year.
Dude, get to it.
I know.
What's everyone doing?
Dude, you can't drink 250 gallons a year. That's you got a problem. That's a lot.
No, yeah, and I think it was cool as about the I was gonna ask pump over with a pump over versus punch down.
Yeah,
that's depending on varietal winemaker.
Really, how much for us, how much extraction we're getting. Like if we feel like the softest thing for us is that we do an irrigator, which is like sprinkling over the top, nice and soft, and the hardest is what we call a fire hose or a bazooka. And these aren't technical terms, like we made these up, but but basically, you're pummeling the cap from pulling from a pump down below, and you're turning that cap. A punch down does the same thing as far as turning the cap, and you want to do that so you kind of refresh where everything is in there. So it's not you're not just like extracting in the same zones because caps do kind of or I should say the liquid going through the cap does take the path of least resistance. So you want to make sure you're constantly turning that on a couple times a day.
Sweet.
Yeah.
With the and I like what was it? So there's the free with the runs like what you were saying. Your free run is like the cream of the crop, and then there's like the rest of the wine being like the pressed wine, right?
Yeah.
And so that's still. I mean, it's still all. You're still using all that juice. It's just kind of saying.
We don't typically. So like if the free run turns out as we expected, typically the pressed wine is not going to be like great quality. Okay, so what we'll typically do is
wine showers.
Wine showers. We'll consolidate all that, but like you have to understand too that like 15 or 20% of this kind of like lower tier wine, that still carries the varietal, the vintage, the appellation.
Yeah.
So if we're doing like a Napa Cab, like say 2022 Napa Cab.
Okay.
All right. Like people want that. It's like it's high dollar for the bulk market. So we've got call it like just 1,000 gallons or something like that of press wine, and we put that out to a broker, and we're like, hey, we got 1,000 gallons of 2022 Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, and they'll have a buyer. And they'll be like, then you negotiate the price, and so Napa Cab can go for, I mean, right now like 40 to 60 a gallon, right? That's a great price, because you look at something like a varietal people don't want, right? Like say Zinfandel, which is one of my favorite varietals.
It is one of your favorites.
But you're probably looking at $8 to $10 a gallon. You're going to be taking a loss. But at the same time, we're not going to use that wine for anything pertinent, the press wine. So put it out there, get what you can, get it out of your inventory so you don't have to deal with it, and then move on with the quality products that you have.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it generally works, because if you take that 1,000 gallons of Napa Valley Cabernet, say that you paid $50 for, and you're going to put it into a blend that's, call it 50,000 gallons, you're going to be, and whatever your price point is, but assuming you're going to be making money, you're just augmenting your blend by a certain percentage and making more money at the end of the day. So there's a lot of people out there that deal in the bulk wine market, and that's their gig, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's fine, but that's like,
it's like you usually see
here's another marketing term. You've heard of the word like a negociant winemaker? No? Okay.
No. Tell me. Please explain.
No, so all you're dealing with is bulk wine. You're going through and you're tasting what people have for sale, and like making bench blends, and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy 1,000 from there, 5,000 from there, 2,000 from here, and then you just bring it into usually like a place that will do your blending and bottling for a fee. You blend it there, filter it, or whatever you want to do, and then you You bottle it. That's a negociant winemaker. Another marketing term that people are like, oh, yes, he's one of the best negociant winemakers. Like, dude, you're just a good blender. Not like, don't get all high on your horse, buddy. Tell me the dynamics of fermentation, and then we can talk.
Yeah. Can you draw it out? No, you say, tell me in 60 seconds or less. You do it, buddy. Put it out there. And I also you did mention the which I always find interesting is the degrees of fermentation is different. It's different when you're doing red and white.
Oh, temperature-wise?
Temperature-wise.
Well, yeah, because in tank, we have the ability to chill it down and hold it at a certain temperature.
Uh-huh.
In barrel, the only thing we can do is like drop our AC unit in the barrel room. And so you can do that, but you have much less control than you do in a tank. But typically, we're able to get, I mean, Chardonnay can ferment for like, no joke, like 60 days, especially with native yeast. So you're just doing this like super long, very, very simple fermentation, stirring it every once in a while and making sure it's still clicking down. Once you see that, like if you're at like a low level of sugar and it just stops, like you're at the same level of sugar day after day, you've got a stuck fermentation and you got to fix that. And that's never a good sign. But if you're not sticking a couple fermentations a year, are you really even trying? Like, dude, I mean, you got to take the risk. You want to talk about the wine world. This is an interesting point that I've thought a lot about, is that I'm fortunate to be an owner and a winemaker, right? Most people in the wine business, there's an owner, and then they hire winemakers or a winemaking team, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you have $100,000 worth of grapes in a tank, and you fuck that up, you're probably going to lose your job.
Yeah.
So what they'll do is they'll say like, all right, this was a very ripe year, and I wanted to make sure I would finish fermentation, so I added water, which is legal to do in California, up to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So you drop your potential alcohol, meaning you drop your potential risk, but you're also adding water, which is like that's just neutral. That's going to be diluting whatever character Mother Nature gave you, right? So while I am a winemaker, I've got a great winemaking team too now, and these guys, they know that like if I'm not around, you guys better be screwing up some wine every year. Like, because if you're not pushing the limits and trying to make the best wine, I'd rather sacrifice a fermentation lot than have just linear mediocre wine.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an interesting thing that I've seen just in my career kind of play out, and I think that's because of empowerment. It's like I want everybody to take the risk. Everybody, not just like winemakers, assistant winemakers, but the cellar team, like all of them, like they know you guys push the limits. Like if you guys think there's a decision that needs to be made right now, make that decision. Don't try to run it up the ladder. Like you guys have the power. And I think that drives our team, like the whole team, to like embrace each other and what they're doing, and like everybody fucks up sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I mean, the freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then also it's like you want that pure shit.
Yeah.
You don't want your wine cut with water.
That's
Kinda
it.
like cocaine, right? Like we don't want you baby powder cut. I mean, I just heard. I mean, I don't know. Like
What
right?
are
Any kind of analogy.
So it was baby powder. Are they still doing baby powder?
I don't know.
What's
I don't know
the fentanyl? But is
fentanyl?
Is that
yeah.
But that's not to cut it. That's to like make it a different high.
I mean, this is not my expertise, but I mean, I just know that there's a lot more like fentanyl going on, and with cocaine use, that's where a lot of the overdose is coming from. And
yeah.
then I do also know that, like, I mean, dude, fentanyl is just like crazy shit. Just the fact of like touching it and
when you see that it's like
from like people that know from police
it's
officers.
like
or
that much can kill you. You see like the videos and shit. Like
Yeah.
Jesus, really? Like
Yeah.
why would you even fuck with cocaine now if they're putting that shit in it? Like what? I mean, back like when our parents were younger, like think about it. They're like going through the 80s.
Oh,
they're like,
dude, they were doing,
like,
yeah.
oh man, yeah, I'm a weekend warrior. Let's go do some blow.
Yeah,
and like they didn't have to
movie blow.
They didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, they were good at that.
Now it's
That's
like
their shit.
I've got my kids bringing home like fentanyl testing kits. Like they just give them out
For
at
real?
school. Yeah, no joke. Like, and I think well, I haven't used one, but like we've got a stack of them. So, but I think that it's like a liquid that you put on whatever your product is, So, you know, they're taking the approach of like, at least we can make the kids safe, which is like, I get that, but it's also like,
Whoa.
kids just shouldn't be fucking looking or finding like cocaine. I know that like wine country is a wealthy area and there's access to, you know, whatever designer shit, their designer drugs are out there. But the fact that the schools are like giving out fentanyl testing kits, I guess I'd rather have that if my kid was experimenting with it. I'd rather them do that and be safe. But at the same time, why even fuck with it?
It's always some scary shit.
I don't get it.
I'm just wondering if they'd have like testing kits for wine. You know, so you say, is this fucking watered down shit? And so like someone comes and brings a bottle to your dinner table.
$1 million
like, Hold
idea.
on a second. You just like
Drop something in there.
You drop it in. You're like, well, looks like we have a problem here, Joe.
I bought luxury
do you want
wine.
to talk to Brad right now about the wine that he brought to our table? You trying to fuck us, Brad?
You're cutting our
I
shit.
don't know why it's Brad. Like I threw that name out there.
It's like, you're cutting our shit, bro. We didn't invite you here to get cut shit. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how we got on a fentanyl.
I know. Sorry. I took it there with my analogy, but I think it's also MLF, malolactic fermentation.
Yeah.
Like it's like so the between comparing that to your first fermentation. So we can say, just to summarize, that you're like the malolactic fermentation is like a softening fermentation.
Yeah.
Turning characteristics more into, would you like the softer,
Like the buttery, creamier
buttery,
notes. So like people that like the big buttery bomb Chardonnays.
Yeah.
That's all from ML fermentation.
Yeah.
So you get those characters. Like if you look at another white wine or like rosé, so Sauvignon Blanc, a lighter white, rosé, they very seldom ever go through ML fermentation. That's all a winemaker's choice, right? So you can not allow it to go through ML or allow it to go through ML. But in those wines, you typically want them to be like lighter and brighter, and you don't want them to have like a lot of mouthfeel. You're looking for that kind of like real lean and like mineral driven style. So you don't go through ML. Now red wines, like all of our red wines go through ML.
Yeah.
All of our Chardonnays go through ML. Our Sauv Blanc does not, and our rosés do not. So that's all just preference. But I think that we're going for that style, right? So that's all just a preference. Where actual primary fermentation is a conversion of sugar to alcohol and CO2. ML fermentation is a conversion of malic acid to lactic acid.
And that's from the yeast that you're using?
That's a bacteria that actually does that
bacteria
conversion.
that you're using.
But bacteria and yeast are everywhere, right? They're all around us.
Yeah.
So there are other bacteria, like if you wanted to make vinegar, right? You would have a bacteria you could inoculate with it called Acetobacter, and that will, especially if you have like a little residual sugar left, but you don't even need that. But if you wanted a hospitable environment for it to convert or create what we call acetic acid, which is a really sharp acid, which is the vinegar type acid, then you could take regular still wine and create vinegar with Acetobacter, which, yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are we going to keep on talking about winemaking, or should we get into some fun stuff? Like, I feel like we just bored our audience. I hope you guys are enjoying this.
You can now. Well, there's like a little chapter thing.
Oh yeah, you can skip.
Just skip it.
All right.
They're gonna do what they usually do.
But
they're listening. No, I want to say that, like, just to sum up, it's important. I think, like, what I like about this is just learning. Is always learning something new. You have all that knowledge. It's cool. Like, but also the simplifying it as well. That's why I think, like, yeah, the attention spans are going crazy now, like the smaller they get. But it's cool, like, to be able, like you said, like, hey, I want to, like, get winemaking. I don't have much time. Let's, like, I want to just get the gist of it. Oh, 1 minute, boom.
Well, and hopefully,
it's not, like, as crazy as I thought it was.
Well, and hopefully this sparks an interest. I mean, it's really hard for us in the wine business to show people how things are made, because I'll relate it to, like, the beer world, right? They're making beer, like, every week, every day, right? You go to a brewery, you can see the same stuff. You see the raw product, you see the final product.
Yeah.
And in wine, we're relegated to an area, right? So it's like you got to be near where the grapes are grown. And because you're dealing with a fresh product, you're not dealing with grain. You're dealing with grapes that are going to spoil if you don't get them, in a tank and fermented, within a short period of time. So, and then we're also relegated to a period of time, which is harvest, right? And so you've got, call it 2 to 3 months of time to actually get all your grapes picked and ferment through and all that stuff. So getting people into a winery in, a very small regional area in a very small time frame, it's really hard to show people that stuff. So if we can do it on a social platform and then have people just pique their curiosity and seriously, if you guys all want to email us out there and we'll give you some recommendations on what kits to try out. And once you get confidence in fermenting from a kind of wine kit, which don't expect yourself to make good wine off of those, but it at least gets you to understand how wine is made, and then you go out and get grapes and some basic equipment and have some fun with it. And that's how a lot of wineries started. I mean, that's how some very famous wineries started.
Yeah, I mean, ask questions that we can do new episodes and answer those questions. I mean, ask the experts. Expert.
The experts.
Which is over here across from me. So now we're going to be on the topic of...
Restaurantes.
Restaurant, man. You own a restaurant.
Sometimes I just want to open just a taco stand because those are the best. Always. And the only thing you serve as a beverage is wine. You're like, dude, if you like my carne asada, you got to drink some chilled Pinot. But no, instead we opened a full-scale restaurant. We were just talking about Gordon Ramsay, right? There are some operators out there that are inspirational. You're like, dude, these guys... And I love to hear you told me you've met him and he's a chill guy.
Yeah.
Because then you got Guy Fieri and you're like,
bringing it back. 2 digs. Is there gonna be another there was a second dig?
But Hell's Kitchen.
How it is. You call it how it is.
Hell's Kitchen. See, dude, what's the point? I'm on the wrong side of 40. I don't have much time left. I mean, why would I lie?
Wrong side of 40, bro. Come on.
Yeah, so restaurants, they're cool, they're fun. Everybody loves a great experience, right?
Yeah.
Ambiance, service, food, wine. The company you're with is up to you. If they suck, you're bad. Don't blame us. But if you can, because we have this philosophy of food and wine and just hospitality in general, and around a table is where you not only can get shit done, but you can recap on your day. You create bonds with the people around you, right? That's the beauty of it. And that's the unspoken truth about it. You don't learn that shit until you're much older. You try to tell a teenage kid, it's important to have dinner every Saturday and Sunday night with the whole family because blah, blah, blah. They're they just heard blah, 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 blah. The Charlie Brown, the parents talking. That's it.
How many kids do you have again?
I got 6.
He's got 6.
Six
That's what he's talking about.
6 of them. And 4 of them are teenagers right now. So,
dude, you're I know
it's fun. And wrangling them, it's it's worse than wrangling cats, dude. It's everybody.
I can't imagine.
Everybody.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Yeah, so that's what we love about it, right? And so we decided to open a restaurant in downtown Napa called Avow.
Yeah.
And the vow, our avow, is to bring a great quality of life to a meal.
A promise.
Yeah, it is a promise. Right? That's what it is.
Promise.
It's funny. It's a word that most people don't know anymore, but it literally means the same thing as a vow, but it's a vow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, traditionally, that's how it was spelled.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Together.
and you say I avow to do something, right? That's and it is I promise to do something, but it's a little stronger than a promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do I start with this?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
I mean, you've been to the restaurant. I want to hear your perspective and thought behind the restaurant.
Oh well, holy shit! Well, first I was gonna ask why you wanted to start the restaurant. I will say that I can't believe, first of all, the whole construction of it was amazing to also be a part of, because I was right there where you're kind of doing your whole revamp of the inside of the restaurant, because this restaurant has a lot of history.
Yeah, built in 1908 originally.
Yeah.
Shut down from the 70s on through the 2010s. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there was so it was shut down, you reopen it, you did the whole thing inside, but to have a restaurant, so when this restaurant came, it was right before the pandemic. So I feel it started out, the look to me was oh man, this is new age Great Gatsby kind of like feeling the Leonardo DiCaprio
Yeah. No,
version.
that's what it felt like.
That one.
Yeah.
He was in The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
Not Nicolas Cage.
Not
Nicolas
Cage.
Cage was not in that
That's
movie, but
he would have done well though.
so it had like that vibe, fine dining, right? And then like I was like just like it was crazy to see because I thought you was actually done really well was how you flexed with the pandemic hitting because you had this I believe you had this image of how you wanted things to be. Who could have ever expected a pandemic? I don't know if anyone saw that one coming.
Yeah, I mean there were probably a few of the elites.
It was
I think.
my first. It was my first time.
We all remember our first time.
We all remember our first time. And then it was like changing it to the vibe. I feel like then we had to, especially like through social, but food wise, you had to get going to more like sandwiches and burgers and frosé.
Comfort food, yeah.
Comfort food. There was more like, brighter vibe, I think, on social because obviously people at that time were going inside the restaurant to experience the space. But I thought that was done very well. And then now it was like after a pandemic, then you kind of get to go back. And I feel like even then, you probably learned some things going through that process. And it kind of has now created something that, and I don't know, maybe that you didn't expect happening from what you learned from those experiences that have made it what it is.
Well, I think that, and we're continuing to evolve it kind of back to what it was, the original intention was like, it's a 3-story place, right?
Yeah.
But a pretty small footprint. And we want it to be, more fine dining on the second floor. And then you got the rooftop bar, which is a little like upscale drinks and apps and that sort of thing. And then the more casual bar on the first floor. And so evolving more into that is what we want so that you can come and enjoy 3 different experiences in one night or come Monday, Wednesday, Friday and like get a different experience each night. So with a focus on the, beverages and food. So not just wine and food. We're also looking at spirits and cocktails and that sort of thing. So having a little fun, but a place for us to experiment and, take all of the different cultures of cuisines and kind of blend them together and come out with some amazing foods that challenge the traditional pairings. That's the beauty of it, because I do think that you can pair a wine with any food from across the world better than any other beverage, right? And I think the truth can be said also for doing cocktails, maybe not spirits, because spirits can be a little rough on food pairings. So that's kind of what we're working towards, but it has been a lot of fun, and we got a great team working there. And I think that the pandemic was rough because number one, it was people coming and going, people just like, I'm getting out of the service industry, I'm going to go back to school, and like it was like high turnover, and you've built rapport with all these people, and you feel like you got a team, and then all of a sudden the pandemic just shoots that to shit, right? And then you're rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding, and then finally you get to a point where now we're like at a relatively stable period of time, I think. Yeah. And so now the team is being, or has been, predominantly rebuilt, and getting that vibe back in there, much like I think our wine business is, where everybody feels like they're part of an extended family. It's a little harder in the restaurant world because you also have a lot of young people coming in. They're just looking for a seasonal job and that sort of thing. And you really, in our world, it's like in wine, you get close to people, you get to know them personally, and you have that family, family business vibe. In the restaurant world, you have that with some people, but you also, like, there's also a portion of the team that are just like, I'm here for 3 months and then I'm gone and I may never see you again. So
yeah, dude,
there's kind of that part of it that was a bit of an adjustment for me to see. But I think once I realized, like, this is the core, like you have a core team and then you have kind of your transitional or transitory team, and then you got to learn like the difference there and create expectations around both of those tiers, so to speak. So I don't know, that was an interesting part to me.
Yeah, and I think where did it come, like, when it came down to, because that's like we've said this many times, that you're very hands-on. You're there in the development of like the look and the feel of it. There's a lot of creativity, I believe, with like the menu. You said you should have done a taco stand. I don't know, like if that's coming next or whatever. But
the reason I bring up taco stand is like, dude, is you're making like the same, like, I'm just saying, like, straight carne asada, no other options. You got carne asada, salsa, cilantro, onion, corn tortillas, and wine. Yeah. And like, my mouth is already watering. Fucking like, it's like, I lived in Mexico for a while. Like before I got into growing grapes in California, I was growing grapes in Mexico, and then came up here, and my favorite meal was just like these like there were like bicycle taco stands, and you just go into town and find them, and like you end up finding like your favorite few, but they're just crushing every day the same thing, and like everybody's happy. You're not overspending, and it simplifies everything. I mean, these guys are just like living the life, slinging $1 tacos over and over again, and if you get like your grilled onions, grilled jalapeno, make it up yourself, and it's just like perfect.
Yeah.
So you don't have all the management involved with it. You don't have all the intricate food ordering. That's why I'm saying, like, after I got to know the restaurant business a little bit, you're like, this is a very detail oriented, and like you're trying to match a number of what your expectation for that night is, right? So you're like, I'm ordering this for the expectation of this, and there's more food waste than you might expect, and like it's so there's like all these little elements, and you're like, yeah, this is much more complicated than what a taco stand would be. But no, I love it. We're not going to turn a vow into a taco stand. You're a really fucking expensive taco stand. Yeah.
Do you have like any tip, like for if someone was looking to get into it? Because I always heard something like with like the restaurant business that you can't really be expected to make money right off the bat. Like that it's like kind of like a business. I guess you have to expect to take losses for like
there's like and I think that's a real thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were also we also walked in like a couple months and like the pandemic hit. It was just like, really? Like, really?
I know.
Oh, but right, so yeah, so
like that was
but no, we also expected that because I got a lot of friends in the restaurant world, and so they all kind of like told me like this is kind of how it goes, and then you start to it's all about counting pennies, and then it's about streamlining stuff, and so there's absolutely that part of it. But I think that once you get it running well, like Gordon Ramsay's place, good example. They got that thing just running like it is nonstop. They're cranking it out and doing it high quality, and they've figured out a recipe that works for the kitchen, their abilities. I mean, of course they got high volume because it's a popular place, so they know it's like, oh, we're going to go through 600 or 700 beef Wellingtons in a day,
which is crazy.
I know.
You're telling me about that, like,
so how much prep work goes into that in the back kitchen just so they can like pop them out in like a matter of 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Hey Art, can you bring up the Avow Instagram? I just want to get like some visual on this, but I mean, so this is, I mean, dude, that's what I like about it is that like it's that you're like changing the menu often and having like lots of fun with all the different things.
Like that cocktail right there, the Carneros Fog with the little
with the Bell Gloss
little
floater
drizzle
on it. Yeah.
Little drizzle with the Yulin Lock Pinot from Bell Gloss, and then you got some, inspirations from across the globe in all of these things. I mean, I believe that's the ceviche.
Yeah, the ceviche, and click on the green beans. Oh, look at that.
Mm.
Yeah, the tempura green beans.
Yep.
Yeah, I like them too. It's nice. So I was like thinking about with like the food part of it. With like, did you have an idea? Because I know you've traveled a lot just through like being in the wine business and stuff like that. Did you ever have like where you'd be going across, you taste certain things, and you're like, hey, if I ever do that restaurant thing or that dream that I have, like, I'm definitely gonna have this dish.
There were a couple of those, but like one of them, and we're gonna have to bring it back, but like the world's best corn dog. No, but like you got like
I know, dude. You're like, oh, okay. I'm talking about your wine travels, and you're like, when I was at Disneyland.
No,
I mean,
because
the corn dog.
We've all had like maybe not all of us, but most people have had like every level of corn dog that's out there, right? Like the Disneyland corn dog, which is like freshly dipped. You got then the Foster Farms corn dogs that are frozen, whatever else. But like, and I've had little corn dog bites that are done kind of like fancy, but I'm talking like. You use a proper, like the right kind of sausage, and it takes experimentation. You got to get some like corn chunks in your cornbread mix, and more like cornbread mix, not just like kind of creamy corn wash, and then whatever other accoutrements. But like you could make it the best goddamn corn dog in the world, and like make it fancy.
Yeah,
right.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
I like that. I've been to like one of the top. That we like to My wife and I, you know, we like to do the Michelin star stuff.
Spend all your money on fancy restaurants?
Dude, we just like the experience. Shut up, dude. I don't want to even get shit from you about that, okay? We're just expanding our mind, okay, and gaining knowledge. Adding to our food blog. I don't have a food blog yet, but it's in the works, maybe. But yeah, Alinea in Chicago.
Yeah.
Grant Achatz was a great restaurant experience, but they do a lot of fun things there. He was doing crazy stuff, but it was like it was you know, having like this like a dish that kind of like represented like the candy bar or whatever that you would be tasting.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, what? But it's like just like a gel, and you would just eat this gel and it tasted just like that, whether it would, say it was like a Snickers or whatever like that. Then they had like this machine that they talked about because it just really like blew my mind. And I guess they have like this machine where you have to find out like the technical name for it, but basically you would just put in anything. You could get a birthday cake, you put it in this machine, and then it's gonna basically spit out like in like a gel form, or whatever. You could use it as the flavors, but incorporate everything that food was, essentially.
Yeah, we're like a rotovap.
Yeah. See, I'm glad we have someone here with some damn intelligence. Gosh, what would it be?
No, so you could throw a fucking birthday cake in that thing, and it'll give you a liquid that tastes just like all the elements of whatever birthday cake you threw in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your rotovap.
A rotovap.
Rotovap.
Yeah, it's actually like it's like a vaporizer. It's like we do.
Okay.
It's for like experimentation on the distillery side.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've done popcorn and we've done a lot of shit in there. It's like, and it works. It's really cool. We've never like used it for culinary reasons, but that's a whole different level. But that I've never been to Alinea, and that sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah, no, he's awesome, and I think also the series or whatever, Chef's Table.
Yeah.
Or whatever, they did an episode on Grant Achatz, and
oh yeah, I saw that.
Dude, it was fucking awesome.
He's making edible balloons with helium in them.
I had one of them.
Really?
Yeah. Apple.
Yeah.
Well, the one I had was apple. You could eat the string and everything. It was all.
That's crazy.
Apples, like,
and they'd bring them out like on a. They'd bring them out.
Yeah, and they're like floating and stuff, and you could suck out the helium and hey, this is a great experience. Like, not that I did that, I totally did it, but yeah, no, it was really cool. But he has like a cool story, dude. Dude lost his taste.
Yeah.
You know,
that's right. I forgot about that.
A mouth cancer or something. Anyways, you should just watch that episode. It's great. But just back, if we just get the Avow visual back up, I think that's something to check out. And then
yeah, you guys are interested,
Chef Dan,
take a look.
Over there.
Chef Dan the Viking.
Dude, he's a man. They got like a lot of great food. They're always kind of like changing their stuff, and I think that he's definitely worth checking out. Well, actually, I'm gonna say this right now on this podcast. Probably bring him on, and we can go more in depth sometime.
Ah, that's a good idea. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's good. I think, dude, you have any tips? Like last tips, if someone was like, "Hey, I'm actually thinking about starting a restaurant," what would you tell them?
Well, you got to work in every. If you want to start your own restaurant, you got to work in every area of the restaurant before. Like, I could say that about myself for like the wine industry.
Yeah.
But I can't say that for myself about the restaurant industry. So it was a really steep learning curve. So if you're just like working up, you start as busser, definitely work in the kitchen, and then you know hostess, whatever, and then working up into server, then work into the kitchen even more so, and then once you understand like food costing and all that stuff and ordering, like you got to get all that. So if you're going to actually own and manage it, which I think is a great way to go, because it's a good life, but it can be stressful too, but you got to know every aspect of it. Yeah.
So we were going to talk about guys. I think we should talk about therapy first, though, for you.
1 sec.
Okay. Damn, we just had the intro.
He was just about to drop the beat, Chad. We can see you in here, dude.
We can actually include shit like this.
I know.
I don't care if you bring the sound guys, like the sound crew into
we
like
need a
this.
camera on you guys, dude.
Yeah, no shit. Can we do a camera on you guys sometime?
Yeah.
There's a lot of flipping off over on this side.
Seriously, can we get an extra camera for the room in there? I want to see like the fucking things you guys are doing in there.
Yeah. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to be Big Brother.
All right, I'm
Is it
sorry.
real? Like I can see them, but like does it feel weird that you can't see them? They're making faces at you?
No, I prefer it that way. I don't need any distractions. I got fucking Art back there who wants to live in the Sahara Desert.
Because he has it on 80. Look at it.
Dude, you go mountain biking with this guy?
Oh my god, is this the sweat story?
Yeah,
again?
you go mountain biking with this guy.
We have fucking Alaska over here, though, dude.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I was meant to like be born in Minnesota or something, but did you? You're like my favorite sport might be ice fishing. I don't know yet. I've never done it.
Okay, okay. Tell me, wait. What's the temp that you like to keep your house at?
Cold,
your
like
rooms.
55.
Dude, what the fuck, dude? That's not normal, bro.
It's always more comfortable to bundle up than it is to like not. So
yeah.
I like it cold.
And
No, so mountain biking with Art, right? So
Yeah.
it's like 100-degree day out.
yeah.
And you're up there hustling. I'm like, I must have already lost like 5 pounds of water weight, just like draining off of me. And you look at Art, and he's just mountain biking, not a fucking drop of sweat on him. Like, dude, where did you come from? What kind of genetics do you have? Like, you like spread those around?
Yeah, I've also gone mountain biking with Art, and he took me on a fucking crazy trail, and I wanted to fucking look like a badass because like he brought his whole team. He brought me with his whole crew. He has a fucking crew that he rides with. All
Yeah.
these guys are fucking hardcore, and then they're like all going through this river, and like of course like I bomb it, not having any skill whatsoever, and I go right into the water and I rip my fucking Lululemon pants.
Oh.
And then I didn't want to say
poor
anything.
guy.
Hold on, dude. Okay? It was a gift, and I really liked it, so I wore them. But yeah,
Where
the guys
did you
gave me
rip
shit
them?
all
Did you
night.
rip them like on the leg, or was
like
it like
on the knee?
on the knee?
Yeah. And I tried to send them back and say that it was
Don't
a
people
different
pay
defect.
extra for that? Like, isn't that distressed? Like, that's
Not for Lululemon, man.
no, they got to be
no,
clean.
No, that's a different. Yeah, that's a different brand.
So I got another funny mountain biking story. So the guys on the East Coast, right? Like they're a different breed of mountain biker.
Yeah.
And so there's this guy. His name's Don. He worked for Shanken. I think he still does work for Shanken. And so like we were always in contact about like creative stuff and whatever. And he's like, I'd like to come out to Napa and like just hang out with you for like a couple days. Like do what you do. I was like, all right, like we, go around the winery, the vineyards, and then it's like he's like, well, what do you do for fun? I was like, well, mountain biking. So we go mountain biking, and well, first I asked him, I was like, do you mountain bike? And he's like, oh yeah, we got some trails up in like New York.
Oh fuck!
They don't.
I already know
They
this
don't have trails in New York. It's
Well,
like
wait. Well, I mean, like, where in New York? Yeah.
He's in like Manhattan.
Yeah,
so,
dude. Okay.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's all flat. Like their trails. He's like they're mostly
Central
technical.
Park's pretty big. There's,
No shit, Central Park.
I live there.
I go mountain biking in Central Park. And so I bring him up to Angwin, and I'm just riding along. Like, there's a lot of up and down. Angwin's a great spot because it's like,
Yeah.
you got single track. It's not just all one way up and all one way down. Like, it's just you get a good flow to everything.
Yeah.
And so we're like hitting these trails and stuff, and like we're only halfway through, and he just like collapses. He's like, I gotta stop. I think I'm gonna die. I was
shit.
like, I thought you mountain biked. He's like, not on like hills like this. It's like, we're not even at the hard shit yet.
He was
Come on,
like,
Don.
come on, you city boy. You want to do it like I did where I grew up.
Oh God. So yeah,
Dude, mountain biking, actually, dude, this is like a good, because you grew up, I mean, you did that mountain biking a lot. I didn't do that. That was like the one thing that I didn't like really catch on for me. But
Yeah,
you
I
had
don't
like
know
a
why.
mountain
Yeah, I loved it.
Why I didn't do it? You calling me out?
Yeah, why didn't you do it?
Because I was a skater, bro.
Oh, that's right. You were a skater, and you like video games.
Yeah, I mean, Street Fighter 2, dude. I used to whoop your ass all the time.
I mean,
I looked at you.
Was it comfortable at least every night when you had to crawl back up in your mom's vagina?
That's first of all, that's gross, dude. But second of all, like I saw tears come out of your eyes every time because I that's like one thing I was really good at whooping your ass at is video games. Like any fucking game, dude. You know what my favorite was is when you would buy like a new game, and then you'd be like, "Oh, dude, I got this cool game. You gotta come to my house and play it." Bloody Roar. You know where you turn into the animals and
Oh,
you fight
yeah,
in the fucking
yeah.
ring? I just come over and whoop your ass. I ain't even have to fucking learn it. You've been there
It's
with the
all the same-
magazines, learning all the codes and shit.
It's all the same motions, right? I mean, like all those fighting games. You got Street
It's all
Fighter.
the same motions, bro. You
That's-
just
yeah.
find your groove. You know
It's
how
like
to
you're
hit
just
it,
doing
yeah.
all of your same motions on your controller, and you're like, oh, there's another special move.
Yeah. See, I'm like,
yeah.
I got the motions. This is your motions. Like, oh, sorry. They probably don't like that for the.
All right, so now what? What we're I mean, we can
Speaking
get
of
into
growing up, okay. Speaking of growing up and all that stuff, I thought it was interesting. You grew up hunting guns, and I always thought it was. I don't know. I thought it was great, like how you passed down like all the safety and the comfortability and growing in that kind of realm that can sometimes be like a hot topic. You know, we're not going to try to get like crazy political.
Let's not get political about this, but
no one get right. We don't want anyone to get crazy.
It's like guns kill people.
Wait, hold on, no,
people don't kill people. Okay. Guns kill people. Like, oh, you are so ass backwards. Really? So this community that we live in is pretty entertaining because like it's got its mix, but it's by and large pretty liberal. We're in California, right? So like guns, once something happens with a gun, it's like all over the news. Like, I mean, Gavin Newsom's trying to like stop concealed carry permits or make them more difficult to get because apparently mass shooters have concealed. Like, that's bullshit. It's those guys that are actually like out there, you know. Luckily, we've had a few periods or times when like people actually had their concealed carry and stopped a crime from happening. But guns, like, everybody should go through gun safety. Like, it should be a standard. Like, you know, say in some countries, like, after you graduate high school, you go straight to the military and you get acquainted with things. You may not ever own a gun, but at least you know what to do with them. Like, if a kid comes or goes into a house and finds a weapon and they don't know what to do, that's how accidents happen. Like, it should be part of, like, your curriculum, hunter safety or whatever. Like, learn how to hold and deal with a gun and be safe with it. Yeah. Period. So like my 11-year-old just finished his hunter safety, and I actually got to do it part with him because it's like all on video now. I mean, back when I did it when I was a kid, it was like you had to sit in a classroom, you were breaking down guns, and it was just boring as shit. And then you had a test, and then
Wait, you broke down guns?
Yeah, they taught you like you actually had to know how to work the mechanical parts of a gun. Yeah, like understand everything. So. They kind of do it. It's all online now, but I got to learn a lot of other shit, like going back through it because I haven't done it in like, I don't know, 30 years. So, but he passed it, and yeah, we go out shooting all the time. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that's great. I've seen how you like also like introduced guns like La Caña, which you are now in the process of rebuilding since the fires. Yeah. But even before then, it was a fun place where people come and visit, like to show them and not only like to have good cool like area for wine tasting in the wilderness and doing some of these like cat rides like the cars and like stuff like that, checking out the pretty views. You had gun range, or you had gun shooting out there with the clay pigeons.
Oh yeah, skeet shooting. Yes. Yeah, so we got skeet shooting, we got the pistol range, and then rifle range. But like what's cool about it, so like this is an example where we'll bring a partner out there, like a distributor, right? So we had our distributor from Illinois, mostly Chicago, out. And like Chicago is, high crime rate. Guns are very scary in Chicago. Like they just walk around the corner and shoot people. The guns do, not the people. And, and so I like, first question is like, has anybody ever shot a gun? And like out of 10 people, you get one person raise their hand. They're like, oh yeah, I did like skeet shooting once. You're like, okay, this is gonna be very different. We're gonna do handguns and ARs. And so
just jump right into it.
Run through all the safety stuff.
Holy shit. Start
them on like a small caliber pistol, like 22, go to 9mm, go to 40 cal, go to 45, and just get them kind of acquainted with it, how it works, how to shoot, how to be safe, right? And so you're standing there right behind them the whole time, one shooter at a time, and so they're all like, wow, getting comfortable with it, and like a lot of them are like, I'm gonna go back and like actually buy a gun, just because it's not just for safety, it's also for fun. Like it's a blast. It's a great hobby. Yeah. But then with this group, because ARs are like they're a very touchy subject with most people.
Yes. I'm like almost thinking as you say that I'm like, are we going to bleep that? Or
they're
what?
Considered an assault weapon, right? It's literally just a rifle with a couple different features. Like
a couple different features.
I could if I actually wanted to like nail targets every time, I'd be using a bolt action, like with a nice scope. Okay. Every time. Like you're not as accurate with like an AR. Yeah. That's what I think. So anyway, so I pull out the AR and like people are like, holy shit, that's like a murder tool, Yeah. And it's like no, this is the same thing as the pistol you just shot. You just have more control because you're holding the gun in a different way, right? And then you have your shoulder to actually like get it braced up. And so I'd explain it all to them. And like as soon as they pull that trigger, it's like they have this revelation. It's like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. Like they're a blast to shoot.
And I've actually been in the settings too, where we had like groups out there recently, because you now have like a target with the target shooting, this thing that you set up.
Yeah.
And you have groups out there come to taste and stuff like that, and then you get to the shooting part. And I do like to see people that are kind of apprehensive a little bit. You go over the safety, and then they'll give it a try, but then they like sometimes you'll see some people like they're whoa, that was like awesome, like nailing the targets and stuff. I don't know, like kind of like opening their mind that it's not something to be so like
Well, one of the ladies was like from Chicago was like super like verbally concerned about the AR. Like, you have an AR? And I was like, yeah. I mean, you're from Chicago, so you might as well know how to shoot what's being shot at you. that joke didn't go over so well. I was just
shoot. Did she end up shooting it?
She did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's once you get the one shot off, then it's like, I'm gonna empty this mag, and they just like, boom, wow, and then it's like, boom, 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 boom.
And then that's how, I mean, you grew up like with hunting and stuff like that, with because remember in the vineyards and stuff like that with the jackrabbits.
Yeah.
Oh, that was something interesting you told me about the rabbits evolving. So because I remember when we were younger, getting those rabbits. I mean, the first time actually that I saw, because I didn't really have much experience on in my family with hunting. I got it from yours, and like I first saw the first rabbit skinned when your dad like skinned a rabbit.
Oh
first.
yeah.
And like I think I almost like fainted, and like you were like, "This is cool, wake up!" And I was like, "You're missing it."
Well,
Not that like I was weak or anything. I think I just had low blood sugar that day.
So like, did you know that like your chicken and beef doesn't come from the grocery store?
What, dude?
What?
Okay, hold on a second. I want to get the record straight. I was in 4-H with you.
You were,
Dick, and I raised pigs. And I raised steers. And when we got to the auction, after raising my buddies, I knew that after that they went to Happy Land for pigs and steers, where they go and they play and they have a wonderful life.
They do. It's an amazing period of their lifetime shortly after being sold at the fair.
Yeah.
And it makes us all very happy. That's actually the best place to get meat. Like every year we go and buy like a couple pigs and a steer.
Yeah.
And it's like, because, like, you know, if you really want, like, truly natural, just good quality meat, dude, split a pig with somebody. Like, go to the fair and split a pig. You're helping the kids out. And you're teaching people that, you know, like, you can go get something that came out of a feedlot that's all injected with hormones and shit. And, like, yeah, I'm sure everybody eats a lot of beef and chicken and whatever else like that. But, like, if you can actually get something that's, like, totally natural, just why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And it's a write-off.
Well...
It is. I mean, we'll do a whole segment on taxes.
Supporting the kids.
Well, you support the kids. It goes in, like when we did it, like mine supposedly went into a college fund. Yeah. But I never saw that fucking money. I think my parents just like pocketed it. they're like, well, if he actually goes to college, then we'll just pay for college, you know. But I didn't really go to college for like a year and a half, 2 years or something.
Yeah, you dropped out, bro.
I know, I'm a dropout.
Yeah, look at you now.
That sucks.
Do you wish you would have?
I wish I had, you know. I wish I got a major in like
me, dude.
Liberal arts, something like that. I mean, you know, something useful, something that will get me a good job. You know, waiting tables and owing $200,000. I think I missed my calling. Maybe I'll go back to school and become useless.
Yeah. Well, wait. Okay. Well, you should see my degree. It looks really pretty on the wall.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I will tell you a funny story about degrees. So,
is it about mine?
I don't have one. So somebody was like back in my 20s when I was like just starting to see some success in wine. Like that was always one of the questions. Like, oh, where did you get your degree from? Like that was it.
Oh, really?
Always, like every time I had a conversation, like, where'd you get your degree from? And so then you kind of have this like awkward thing. You're like, I ended up dropping out and working and learning on the job and then starting this brand and whatever else, and like you tell them the story, and like until you're like 30, people don't ever like, they're kind of like they have like big question marks over their head, right? So, so just for shits and giggles, I created 2 counterfeit degrees.
Holy shit!
Like I had my BA and whatever, and I like made it all funny. So like you saw like the college name and the crest and whatever else, and I made the degrees like some bullshit degree, and then I had a master's in something else, and I put them above my desk. I'm sure I still have them somewhere.
Dude, if you still have them, can you get them? I want to see what they. Did you make up the name of the school, or did you?
No, they're legit school names, and they're legit
school
crests. I mean, I think I went to Harvard. Is one. I think I got my master's at Harvard.
Is that like illegal?
I mean, I'm not trying to get a job with a fake degree.
No, like if we're gonna find out if it is.
I had one of the.
This is gonna air, and then we're gonna see.
You know how you get like
the
signature of the dean or something? So I had like the guy that manages our mechanic shop sign it. So like Samuel Camarena was his name.
But wait, why did you? Why? Because he had like a cool signature? Or?
No, he was just like in the office that day, and I was like, dude, hey, I need his signature. He's like,
did you tell him when he?
He's like, okay, Joe, whatever you need, Joe.
Oh my gosh, dude! Wow, he didn't even know what he was signing.
Actually, he didn't.
He's now an accomplice. Fuck, dude. This is big.
All right, so why don't we follow or finish up on the guns thing? So, like, I do think that everybody should learn how to use guns. It is like they're an amazing thing to use, but at minimum, just knowing the safety aspects of it and being able to pass that down. Like my dad didn't shoot pistols with us. He wasn't a big pistol guy. It was mostly rifles and shotguns, and then I got into hunting, mostly birds, and that's a blast because you're like active out there. So dove, quail, that sort of thing. But then big game, and big game's good because you actually get like a lot of meat, and it's good meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you still hunt today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is it that you go for today? Is
still like dove, quail.
Yeah.
I haven't gone elk hunting in a while, but that was fun. And deer.
So
that's pretty much it. I don't like duck hunting.
You have, correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't you done like the heart thing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
It's a rite of
right?
passage.
Yeah.
Your first elk.
Do you want to tell that story?
Do you want me to gross everybody out?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking about cleaning a rabbit, right? So like that's where it all started. Like my dad started me on cleaning fish that I caught and then cleaning rabbits that I shot and taught me how to do it. And it's like, there's a certain way to do it. And then you're dealing with call it like 1,000-pound animal, right?
Yeah.
Like an elk, so 800, 1,000 pounds, whatever. And you're out on a hillside in the middle of nowhere. It's like freezing cold, and so you're like you got to like part this thing up, and you got to field dress it, meaning get all the guts out, anything you're not going to be keeping, and then skin it and bring it back with you.
Yeah.
And then pack it. And so first thing you do is you field dress it, and that is where you kind of like cut out all the insides and through the stomach, and then you pull kind of the whole gut sack and everything.
The gut sack
out, and of course you got stomach, liver, intestines, whatever, like everything.
I didn't know you were. This is what you meant. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you got all the same body parts and functionality of what we do. But your first elk, the rite of passage is that you take the heart and you take a bite out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you did that
while it's still warm.
While it's still warm.
Yeah, I mean.
And is it like you're getting like life energy or something?
Dude, who's a Liver King guy? Like, I don't buy that shit. That's, yeah. I mean, but it's gross. It was fucking gross. I do not recommend it. It's not really a rite of passage. I don't even know where it came from. Somebody could have just been fucking with me. Like, dude, you got to do this. You do this or you're not a man.
I heard about it too. I feel it was like respecting the kill, right? Or I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think you respect the kill regardless, but that's like, but
in a like ceremonial.
A ceremonial, like,
yeah.
I've never done it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then you've disrespected everybody else, you asshole.
Dude, raw heart.
Speaking of horrible things, maybe we should move to horrible bosses.
Let's go, horrible bosses. All right. Okay. All right. If anybody has any questions about guns in the future, just let us know, because and I could bring some in, talk about them. But anything, I love them. They're fun. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. I think that's it. All right. So first of all, horrible bosses. This is our opportunity to criticize somebody else's boss. No names are stated.
Anonymous.
Totally anonymous.
Yeah.
But if you have a good story that we can air and analyze, please send it in. horrible.bosses@coppercane.com. And I try to learn from this too.
Learning, knowledge.
I'm a boss. I'm a bad boss bitch. Is that
You're a bad boss. Okay, so just
I'm basically the Lizzo of St. Helena.
that's dude.
All right. Here we go. Most recently, I had a boss who was basically the gay drunk version of Robert Irvin. Okay. Who's Robert Irvin?
He's a celebrity like chef. He wears tight shirts. I think he's like pretty strong, dude.
Okay, this is already going off the rails a little bit. I feel like this person's angry. The gay drunk version of Robert Irvin. Okay. Really ripped up, always wearing tight black polos and being really bossy. He was a nice guy and all, but he acted like a sorority girl in the sense that he drank a bottle of wine every day and loved to gossip. Sorority girls drink wine? All right. He would always criticize what people were wearing, and if he didn't like them, he wouldn't try to hide it. He loved being the center of attention, so anytime we had an event or meeting, he would always start by telling a joke, and if you didn't laugh or giggle, he would get pissed. Sounds like you might have an ego problem. Once he bought the team sandwiches for lunch, and when we met a team goal. When the time came for us to eat lunch, he hid the sandwiches and didn't want to give them to us since we didn't thank him enough or felt that we were grateful enough. He eventually sent us an email notifying us where they were, and he acted like nothing happened. It was really weird and awkward. That's childish. One time he invited some of his friends to sit down and do a tasting with him, which was quite common. For his tasting, he requested the new person to host him. But in all fairness, she had only worked there for a week, and she was nervous about hosting him. Honestly, I think she did great given the circumstances, but my ex-boss thought the opposite. He kept on waving her over and snapping multiple times to get her attention. One thing about him was that he drank like a fish, and if his glass was empty, he wasn't happy. Throughout the experience, he and his friends kept teasing and criticizing her. They were laughing at her when she was was nervous about being an extreme Karen. She couldn't even finish the tasting because she was so upset. The next day she quit, and the boss simply said, "I'm glad she quit. She wouldn't have lasted here."
Wow.
I mean, that's not controlled chaos. That's just an abusive relationship in a way. I mean, I'd like to know what this person's story, why they quit. Because it sounds like they're no longer employed.
Yeah. I mean,
But that toxicity trickles down. So, like, you're going to have...
Wait, why the person that told the story quit?
Yeah, the person that wrote this, they didn't tell us why they quit. They just told us a story about this girl being criticized as being an extreme Karen.
Maybe that was it for them. Maybe that was like the tipping point. I don't know. I mean, why was it so funny about the hiding the sandwiches? Why? But
think about how shitty it is to have to be like the bystander, right? Yeah. You're sitting there watching this like girl first week on the job just get abused, like, you know, like feeling worthless and like just deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can't say anything because then you're going to get criticized. Yeah. So it's just a toxic environment. Yeah, I mean, and the best way to handle that, I mean, you go tell their higher ups, I guess, unless it's like the owner and he's a dick.
But I mean, I would say like if you're so if you hire someone, they've gone through, you know, the whole interview process. They met so and so, whatever. They are now hired. They're like working for your company, and situations like that too, where then people just kind of do that and like berate you or.
I think it's just all a power. It's a power play.
Trip. Yeah. Like
these guys. I mean, we have. I'm not going to mention names, but we have some people in our organization. That are like the ladder climbers. The ladder, you know, like you see like the corporate sort of mentality where it's like. I need to convey this sense of elitism and power, and that will keep me on top, and kind of like, you know, make sure that everybody below me that like never approve of an idea. Yeah. But then I might steal one or two, you know, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So I try to have everybody leave their ego at the door. That's number one. Egos they're a bitch, man. Like they get in everybody's way. Yeah, I think like you want to be held back. Be an egomaniac.
I think it's just also this thought that there's not enough, you know, that sometimes people, I think that like the whole idea of abundance, and I think more comes from collaboration
Yeah.
And we're all in this together, and there is enough for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's not like you don't have to be stomping on people and crushing on people to the way to the top, and there can be only one like Highlander. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's why I've always tried to like keep a flat organization, right? So it's like open door policy. I'll talk to everybody from a new temp in the cellar all the way up to whatever, VP of marketing. So, and everywhere in between. But like that's part of the family business, family company, family culture. I think that's important, but that also drives more collaboration, and I think that also sets a standard for like more people to cross over into collaborating more broadly. So yeah, that's my advice for this guy would be to go get some help. The boss.
Yeah, the boss.
And probably not be a boss. Like, it sounds like somebody's got to fucking put him over their knee and spank him. I mean, he might like that. But put him down a couple ranks and have him learn how to be a proper human.
And you can't force people to like your jokes.
Yeah.
And one last thing. Can we just say, like, don't fucking hide food, dude. Especially, like,
that
lunch, bro.
is...
Like,
that's a good
that's messed up.
That's
like,
a good insight. That's straight up power play. Like,
yeah,
that's like, oh, you guys aren't appreciative enough.
You're not allowed to eat. Totally. All right, keep sending them in. So we got horrible.bosses@coppercane.com.
That's it.
And send them in. Let's hear the stories. Let's keep going. Let's dig deeper into this.
Let's do it.
Let's get them.
All right.
Blast them.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Go with your palate.
Go with your palate.